Days and bad days. Now it's just. You know.
I'm assuming me and one of my players.
Yeah.
What? Perfect, yeah, no, it's exactly, I just didn't want to think.
So we'll see. 9 o'clock. Who said that? He wasn't thinking.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Solid Waste Disposal and Recyclable Materials Processing Authority of Broward County. We've got the executive committee meeting this morning. It is October 25th, 2024. It is now 9:02, so if you please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I thank you and I welcome everyone. I will ask for a roll call, please.
Morning, everybody. Thanks for coming. We'll start roll call here. Chair Ross,
Here.
Vice Chair Furr,
Here.
Member Shuhan,
Here.
Member Davis. She online?
Not seen her here.
We'll keep an eye out for her. Thank you. Member Mateo Bowen,
Here.
Member Mike Ryan. Member Dunn. Member Villalobos. Member Meek. Here. Member AJ Ryan.
Here.
Member Newton.
Here.
Member Glassman. Member Mayerson.
Come here.
Member Bright Cruz.
Here.
Member Geller. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. We have public comment, 2 minutes per person, one time only, and time cannot be allotted to another person. First up is Richard Ramcharatal. Thank you very much.
It took him a while, but he finally. Last one.
Good morning, everyone. Richard Amchara from Broward Clean Air. I just have a couple of announcements to make. On October 15th, Zero Waste USA.
Yeah.
Can you reset my time?
Yeah, you're on it.
Okay, October 15th, Zero Waste USA put on the introduction to zero waste class. I sent that information out to the executive director and also to Stelly, and also the members of this committee as well. And I hope that hopefully some of you may have taken the opportunity to take that 4-hour class. It goes into everything about zero waste and infrastructure programs and things like that that would be able to help you in your decision making as you go along. There is an upcoming compost operations training course that's being held in conjunction with the U.S. Composting Council. I'm going to be heading up to Hillsborough County this weekend to attend that course. It's a 5-day long course that goes into businesses and large and small municipalities, basically providing training and insight as to how to run composting operations. So this stuff is being done around the country. And so my message is that we should be looking at composting as an alternative solution to incineration. The Sierra Club hired Commissioner Ken Russell to lobby against Miami-Dade County's plans to build the country's largest garbage incinerator. He's a former city commissioner. And interestingly, they attended the City of Coral Gables commission meeting not this past week. And the City of Coral Gables actually passed a resolution unanimously advising Miami-Dade County commissioners to hold off on voting on November 6th for a site location for an incinerator. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next up, we have Joshua Rydell.
I'll speak on the item.
Thank you very much. James Lasky.
Good morning, Jim Lasky, Southwest Ranches, Florida. I've been searching the whole world for yard waste, clean yard waste for, and I found yard waste. And I found literally thousands of tons of yard waste being composted alongside our water supply going to the Southwest Ranches. All right, this thing is actually way huge beyond, I don't think, your comprehension about the potential risk you're looking at here. I see 3 miles of sheep bucket, not 3 miles, I'm sorry, 1 mile of sheep bucket. That's still a few million dollars. Okay, and the owner of the property is one of your trustees, I believe, Florida Power and Light, who has a perpetual agreement evidently with a farmer, a great guy, I understand, second generation farmer, right? And he's been allowed to proceed, you know, nobody knows anything about this subject, really on a large scale composting. Okay, I'm close to understanding it, but there's still a lot to know. That's why I suggest you guys help out Richard and my group, okay, and maybe take along Todd over here to this composting seminar they're going to have on large scale composting and the potential risk if it goes wrong. Because we can take care of 60% of the problem by doing that right there. And the pin action on the farming community up around Lake Okeechobee with 32,000 acres that need to come up 5 feet of soil. This stuff has a retail value of around $45 a yard, we estimate. So discount the hell out of it. But it's still going to be very beneficial in more ways than one. Thank you very much.
Thank you. John Stephen Grady.
And good with the names. Good morning. My name is John Garati, John Stephen Garati, proud resident of the town of Southwest Ranches, Mr. Mayor. Composting is the key to, can you hear this, Bert?
Yeah, don't hold it. There you go.
Composting is the key to get that number to where we need it. Mr. Lasky, one of my neighbors, is talking about a huge piece of property that is a farm. That farm creates topsoil. Topsoil in the Okeechobee region for all these sod farms is a necessity. They don't have it. They can't produce that beautiful grass that we need. You know, it's the same conversation you guys hear over and over from each and every one of us, but it's in our control. I think if we dig into our garbage contracts, and I know that's where attorneys and all the engagements get involved, we have to look at where we can take control of how we can sway the needle. If we don't do that, every meeting is just talk, talk, and talk. And yes, we have to get somewhere, but we can control it with our yard waste, especially us at Southwest Ranches. We have a lot of it. We have huge properties. There's a movie that we went to go down and see called Common Ground. A couple of famous actors are in it. It's a very, very impactful movie. It's not out anywhere. We're trying to get it released out and see if we can show it in our town in Southwest Ranches. But that's a movie along with the one about the plastics that is incredibly impactful, and it'll teach us a thing or two. I took the zero waste course, the introduction. I think each and every one of you should take it because it's incredibly informative and it's like the basics of what we need to do. Thank you.
Thank you. Juan Martinez.
Good morning. Hear me okay?
Speak into the mic.
I've been a
Really into the mic.
longtime resident of South Florida. I grew up in Miami, Florida, and I've been a resident in Navy for 21 years. And I direct the pulmonary division at Joe DiMaggio Children's Hospital, where I'm speaking today about my own opinions. I have some concerns about incineration and in particular how it affects the type of children that we care for at the hospital that we see in relatively large scale with asthma. Some of the research that I've done and looked at with reliable articles, I know there's some conflicting evidence with this, but in some of the best done studies, I'm most concerned about asthma rates fluctuating with the air pollutants that are distributed through incinerators. Mostly sulfur dioxide, nitrogen dioxide, and particulate matter are the biggest areas of concern. There have been some fairly well done studies looking at geographic distributions around incinerators and how high the rates of asthma have been in children who are young and have developing airways. So I have a big concern about that and wanted to just express that to this board. We are seeing very high rates of asthma in the community. I think nationwide, we're seeing high rates of asthma. Some of that undoubtedly is related to viral infection that sweep the communities and lead to a lot of hospitalizations. But from what I've read in the literature, I don't think that any increased levels of air pollution produced by incinerators would make that any better. And judging by some of the communities that have had direct exposure to this, and usually communities of need that don't have the ability to avoid these incinerators putting in place in their communities, I remain concerned that that's a major issue.
Thank you.
I thank you for your time.
Julie Long.
Long, League of Women Voters. The past system of waste disposal is broken, otherwise this group would not exist. The current methods of dealing with waste, incineration and landfill come with significant health and environmental problems. No one wants either option sited near where they live. From attending these meetings, it's apparent one elephant in the room is cost. Waste reduction is possible, but incentives are needed to change behavior. We're used to paying more for good products, so I think we need to really take that into account. Trash pickup could be reduced to once a week. There could be drop-off centers for compostable material, recycling, and bulk trash. A fee could be charged to dispose of large bulky items that do not fit into bins. Yard waste could continue to be picked up once a month, but it should be left at the curb if it's contaminated. And the homeowners or places should be charged fines for violating the regulations. I think if we build a system that incorporates incentives and consequences for not participating properly in the system, we'll have a better system. Thank you very much for working for it.
Thank you. Debbie Green.
Debbie Green, Southwest Rancho President. I just wanted to implore, urge you all again to make all this information public on all your town websites so that we can get more of the word out so that all the residents of Broward County, I mean, this is 11 cities at least, or 10 cities, and hopefully go this to the general authority to help to get this word out, because if you truly want to hear the feedback of the residents of Broward County and what they are willing to pay and what they want to see in the future of our solid waste. I know there was an article in the paper the other day of some other use of the property that was the Broward County owned property that was suggested possibly for a waste to energy site. Perhaps that site should maybe this authority and go to the Broward Commission to propose or to say, why don't we keep this site for, instead of waste to energy, why don't we create the industrial or whatever you call it, compost, recycling, reuse facility, where all the yard debris, which makes up a huge part of our landfills, can be diverted there. All the C&D debris could be diverted there. And all of this then can be other reused. Compost will then be reused to go back to the community or however else it goes out. But, so I just urge y'all to, I mean, I think what I've heard at, even at they shared last time at the public engagement meeting, there is no desire for any new waste to energy or incineration to be included in this the 40-year master plan.
Deputy Chelsea.
Hi. Again, I want to thank you for all the hard work you've done so far and continue to do. Today, I want to focus on the importance of initiating an education program for residents, including students, regarding waste reduction. This is a program that does not need to wait for master plan to be in place. Reminding people to carry a refillable water bottle and reusable bags when shopping, not just for groceries, but for everything. Teaching them to reduce food waste by only buying what they will eat and providing some helpful techniques for accomplishing this goal. Advising them to reduce the use of paper by storing and sharing information on the computer rather than printing it out. Encouraging them to repair electronics that can be repaired. When an appliance breaks, Google the problem. Just this past month, my husband and I avoided buying a new washing machine and a new refrigerator by Googling the problems we were having. Although we initially thought both appliances would have to be replaced because, you know, the fee for calling a repairman to just come and evaluate it is so high. It turned out that the problems were really simple repairs that we were able to do ourselves, both saving a washing machine and refrigerator from entering a landfill and saving us a lot of money. It's just so easy, these things. Teach people about the relationship between waste reduction and protecting their environment and about the money they will save not having to process the additional waste. Residents need to realize that it costs money both to process garbage and recycle, and that burning waste and landfilling have health consequences. Offer information about composting before we have a formal program. If residents understand the value of composting and can easily acquire information on how to do it at home or through a private company, of which we have several in Broward County, they may choose to do it before a formal program is available. Teach children in school to only take what they will eat at school lunch. Teach them what is compostable, what isn't. Encourage them not to bring single-use plastics. Encourage them to share what they learn with their parents. Let's get started now. Thank you.
Thank you. Last I have who signed up, Joshua Rydell. We don't do it like the regular commission meetings where you speak on the agenda item at the time it's heard. We do it beforehand. So, Mr. Director, I know when we talked to the executive director, he allotted time after the waste management. So if you look on your agenda, it says. No, that's correct. You want to do that? You want to know, that's what you want to speak on. Yes, sir. Understood. Okay, so we'll go there. Thank you very much, Mr. Short. Thank you. Moving on to, I have that humming, where's play when you need them?
Oh, me, I'm humming.
Ah, there you go. But you killed all of us now.
No, so the wireless one should be on.
No, we're not. We're all off.
This one can just be turned off until.
We're still having on. Ah, there you go. But of course, there we are. Okay, thank you, Clay. Appreciate that. Next, we've got the approval of the SWA Executive Committee minutes of September the 27th, 24. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Bear with me.
One moment. We have,
Correction, deletion.
I think we had two members show up since we did the roll call, right?
Yeah, we have a board.
We're done.
Member Dunn is here and who else?
Online?
And Carol Schuman.
No, I believe that's somebody else. That's.
All right, very good.
Okay, sorry.
We've got a quorum, not a problem.
Yeah.
Do I have a motion for the approval? So moved. By Commissioner Bean, do I have a second by Member Newton? Call the vote, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Did I hit one nay?
No.
Okay. Then it passes unanimously. We now moving on to the executive director's report.
Everybody. Real quick, we're gonna have a couple of announcements today. We'll go through a few, with just an update. There's a full schedule here. There's a lot to go on. One thing that we would like to be able to do, we'll talk about to maybe move into the county for the SCS max plan update before the county update. Sorry about that. I'll get to my performance. We'll talk about that in one moment. Financial update, real quick. We would like to be able to call up Cone resident and just go through where we are on the financial update.
Yes,
Harms with fundraising. I'm just gonna quickly, I think all of you received the financial package through September 30th, but just to summarize the information as at the end of the fiscal year. The total assets were $1,624,304. And the net equity net equity is $1,474,759. So there's also a statement of activity for the entire fiscal year that shows that the spending that took place for those 12 months was $525,241. The payables summary in this package just represents the bills that were due as of the end of September. I believe with approval, they'll be paid immediately. And then the last couple of pages are just the initial fiscal year budget for this current fiscal year. It's 12 months and 5 months. Questions?
Anything that's not following the trend line?
Member Harrison.
So a couple of questions.
Yes.
First of all, looking in the AP agent summary,
Yes.
you don't have the Broward River cities in there? They've been paid up to date?
For the invoices that we received, yes.
Okay,
So when we receive an invoice, then we pay.
okay, so they're all set.
Everything's squared up. Yeah.
And then on the statement of activity, do you have a more detailed list that you can send us than just the, I guess I'll call it the general, like advertising and promotion, who are we paying, what the costs are? More than just the total amount of that category.
Sure. Okay, so advertising and promotional was 25,110.
Right, but who is that, in other words, who are we paying, what those amounts were, more of a detail? Yeah,
Okay, yeah. I can-
okay. That's my only question.
Thank you. Any other questions from the committee? Hearing none, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Next thing, just a notification that the SWA member 22025 invoice is being developed and will be being sent out shortly. It is the same as the billings last year. Nothing has changed. Next thing, website update. As you know, there's a number of things every day that's changes and additions to the website. Just want to make sure that if it is a tool, please feel free to look at it and give us comments on how to improve. There's a comment section. If there's something related to the website or something you'd like to see as part of the authority, please fill out the comment, suggestion, the comment within the website. We'll get back to you. It's been very effective so far, and we've been able to improve it almost every day. Bylaw amendment update. Carol, you want to go to, or Lori? Okay, yeah, we've had a meeting on that and quick status update.
Yes, we did, Commissioner Shulman, myself and Jamie had met and had a discussion on the bylaws. We have come up with some, methods for the voting of the chair and vice chair, as well as, any absent, or, members that, need filling during the time period during the year. We will be bringing a comprehensive update to everybody I think the next meeting. We found a couple of other things that needed tweaking, such as writing checks and stuff like that. So that's where we are.
Any questions? Hearing none?
Pretty straightforward. Thank you on that one. Integrated communication, education, excuse me, outreach plan. That is in draft. This is a very complicated document. There's a lot to go through, especially in coordination with the master plan. Member Dunn has been very gracious to be able to provide his comments and some guidance with regards to developing the outreach and communication plan. We do have that in draft form. By next meeting, we will be able to do a presentation with regards to that integrated plan and all the different components, including the education, the outreach, and various channels of communication, et cetera. And I believe we have a pretty complete document, but we will be able to present what that is at the next meeting. I don't know if Member Dunn would like to make any comments.
Bob, can you share, Michael?
Yes, so the document that I reviewed is on the right track. I made some suggestions and feedback based on consensus of what I've heard from this body. And so we look forward to sharing next week, next meeting.
Thank you. A little bit more complicated than I originally thought from being silent. Anyway, I think we have a really good plan. It goes through all the different aspects. Item F, survey of Broward County. As part of our outreach to the community, we've heard it in a number of different formats. We need to be able to have maybe an outlet or an opportunity for everyone in the community to participate and provide input with regard to this process. We've decided that we'll actually work through a couple of different surveys, electronic surveys, to be able to get the information out in a timely manner through all the various social media and website and PIOs that we've learned as part of the outreach meeting. The first survey question is in development right now is for residential customers within Broward County. We believe it's going to be between 10 and 18 questions. We'll have that available for an electronic format. We will be able to distribute that here next week to the executive committee for some final comments before we actually put that out online and into the public. In addition to that, shortly thereafter, we are developing in coordination a commercial/industrial survey for our commercial or industrial customers within Broward County. Very different drivers with regards to the two audiences. And we want to make sure that we have to provide that opportunity. We do believe we should be able to work through the local cities PIOs and their business department to be able to get the information on who to send this to and work in coordination with them and get the feedback from the business and the industrial customers so that we incorporate that in our final master plan. It's important that we're listening to different segments and the challenges that each are having with not only, say, current services, but how they would like to be able to move forward in this process with some sustainability. So within next week, the executive committee, please be on the lookout. We'll have master plan. We'll have the draft of residential questions available for review and comment. I think that's it for regards to executive developments today. Any questions on it?
Bob Harrison.
Yeah, where are we at? Because I know we've talked about it before. We brought this up several times regarding the resources and information that's needed from the cities.
That is part of the NCS update. That's next. We have that full.
So everybody has complied.
Yes, they're looking at, there's maybe one or two, but again, I'm looking over at Arcadis.
Well, I mean, my only concern was there was a memo that was sent out in June and now we're getting into November and we're still.
The final communication's gone out. If it hasn't been turned in by Monday, all right, we're done. We're moving forward.
Right, because I mean, I know, like I said, I spoke to my staff and I'm just gonna relate some of the comments. Number one, and I just share this with you, sensitivity. My staff got it at 8:30 at night, the day of the hurricane. They're busy, going through whatever they need to do to make sure things are safe in the city. They were a little taken back by it, especially that this was done in June and they had previously communicated to you about information that they sent in. Did you get the information? Do you need an update? Is it timely? Do you need more information? I mean, obviously, one of the things, we were going through a contract negotiation with Waste Management, so some of that was still up in the air. But again, getting back to that communication, we've got to be sensitive to cities and city staff and people, because they're working hard in their own city doing this. This is kind of like an extra task that they're taking on. And in essence, if you look at it, the city's paying to be part of this, and then we have staff members that are working on it. So we've got to spend more time communicating, you know, even if it's, and I share, you know, I know you want to go around to each city. Takes a while to get around to 31 cities, especially since some of the commission meetings are all on the same day. But even with staff themselves, if you called up and had a Zoom meeting for 5-10 minutes, introduced yourself, talk about what the plan is, what you're doing. I mean, I spoke about communication. I gotta be honest, Todd, we didn't get any communication from the last meeting till this past week from you. You know, here's an update, here's what's going on. We're doing this, we're doing that, and working through this. None of that communication. Those are essential things. Because I look at it, if you're not communicating to us as the executive board, we're not communicating to the governing board. And one of the speakers today emphasized that there's not even communication in the county of what's going on. So how do we expect to come up with something that is going to work for everybody? And again, I know that integrated plan, communication plan may help that, but I want to start off on the right foot, not on the wrong foot, and have to backpedal to come up with reasons why we weren't doing what we did. So.
Real quick, with regards to the last thing, that's why we took a date a week later that was due, not that actually Wednesday was sent out. We're trying to move at a very fast pace also. I'm sorry, it may not have overlaps with maybe very other natural items that are happening within the community. We are working through that communication aspect. We had a discussion with regards to every other week update that would be being developed and sent out to the community and the executive committee. So these are in process. Sorry, it didn't happen within the last 3 weeks, but since the last meeting, we did talk about everything that you brought up, and we will be making adjustments to make sure that those happen.
Thank you. Member Newsom.
Just a question, do we have to, should we put this in front of the general board for the questions that we're going to send out, not just the executive committee?
But it's a policy decision for y'all.
Yeah, I mean, the cities are involved in all this, we just bring up what things to bring to the general. And I just think it might be a good thing to go and bring the questions or even something, than just say, okay, I know you haven't seen it, but here's what we're sending out, you know?
No problem.
I just want to rest of the world. I just want to.
I'm okay with that.
Out.
Consensus.
Okay.
Y'all good? It may delay.
Yeah.
It might be.
Yeah, the concern is that.
Yeah, I think, and that's my point, was that I think we were already slipping behind from a timeline standpoint. Certainly, I agree that more communication and getting more feedback is better than less. But I think we should do it in a way that we inform, and if there's an issue, there's a deadline where they can get back to us, but otherwise, we don't need to hear back from everybody, you know, just to give them the opportunity to respond, but we can't delay the process.
Okay, we got it.
Thank you.
Confirm with that.
Okay. All right, very good. Unless there's a strong objection, what I'd like to do, and it's a personal privilege, changing item 6 with item 7, hearing FCS master plan first. Any strong objection to that? Hearing none, we'll move that up and we'll ask SCS regarding the master plan to step up, give their presentation.
Good morning, everyone.
But Clay will,
Are you humming?
I won't answer. It's one that's just.
It's not saw here. Speak into it.
Yeah, just speak loudly.
Good morning.
You hear in the back?
And say. But I stand for the.
They're not clear at all.
Yeah, Leah, just speak loud.
Just speak into the mic.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. Leah Richter, I'm the Deputy Project Manager on behalf of the SCS team. Happy to be here today and appreciate the concerns and will be giving an update of where we stand on the data request. What we wanted to do first and foremost is thank everyone for all the effort and diligence. We know it's been a cumbersome process for staff and members, and we really do appreciate it. And also just want to recognize that it is very valuable. We're trying to set the baseline for the levels of service, for disposal locations, for the cost of service. And that does take quite a bit of coordination between all of you and your staff. And we just want to reiterate again our appreciation for that. As Todd said, we have sent out an updated request, which I do recognize it was unfortunate timing. Apologies for that. But we have received, and I'm happy to report that we've received 25. We have responses from 25 up to 29 that we've reached out to. The ones that we haven't heard anything back from yet are very, very small communities. Lazy Lakes, in fact, they're in a bit of turmoil right now. So they did let us know that they've gotten the requests and they will be working through that for us. But essentially, as Todd said, we are going to close the request for data as of October 30th. We may reach out directly to a few of you where we need some clarification on some of the information that we've received, just to make sure that we have it correct or that we have the granularity that we need. And then we'll be closing that up and moving ahead with what we have. We may need to make some assumptions. All of those will be very well documented so that everyone can see what we're using. And then we will be reissuing the final task 2 memo, which is really the crux of what is driving the review of the tasks. That will be issued on November 8th. And that will then allow everything else to move forward. So just wanted to also mention that in that data request, we did issue a draft of the task 2 memo to give everyone the opportunity to review if they like. We would welcome feedback on that. That we haven't received much of that to date. So please, if you need that sent again, we can do that. Absolutely. Okay. And just to reassure you, there also will be many opportunities for review. This isn't the last bite at things. So as the draft master plan is issued, all this material will be in there again. So it doesn't mean that, you don't get a chance to review again. So just wanted to assure you of that as well. Just as far as a quick schedule update. So obviously, as we mentioned, with the lag in the data request, which is quite critical to the procession of future activities, we are seeing a delay. I believe there was a bit of a technological issue with getting the schedule uploaded to the site, but I do have copies here if anyone needs them. And I next time I'll bring magnifying glasses. I apologize. It is quite small, but we also will make sure that the electronic copy is posted and will be on the website so everyone can see the progress and zoom in. But in general, as I mentioned, task 2, which is the driving force, that final will be issued on November 8th. The next deliverable that will come to this group will be task 5, which is the regulatory and policy review. So that'll kind of set the stage for what is allowable, what are the restrictions or guidelines that are in place for everything that we'll be putting together. And it will also help set the stage for work that you individually may want to be doing with the legislature. So I know that's something that's been important too. And so it will have some guidance there as well that makes it would be helpful to be able to really maximize what you can recover that you currently would be restricted from doing so. And then just in terms of the overall schedule, the draft master plan, we are looking at early in 2025 for issuance of that. So February 2025, we will then start the public workshops and the meetings presenting those results.
with, those will be occurring in March 2025 time frame, with the final anticipated in April.
Any questions? Member breakthroughs?
Yeah.
Thank you for that update. One of the core central items of this whole process that I'm not hearing about is the exploration of the various potential solutions. I have not heard a word about that. I was really expecting that as we go through this process, we would be getting education on the different potential solutions, how they might be approached, how they might be applied to different types of waste, so that we can start communicating that out to our folks. Because frankly, that's 9 out of 10. That's the questions I'm hearing. Is what, if we're not going to do this, what are our solutions? And I really haven't heard a word about that. And that really concerns me, because it seems like we're getting really deep into the process. And what would be a travesty and frankly a total failure from my standpoint would be if at the end of the day we just get a bunch of solutions that are put in there that we don't understand, that have not been explained to us, that we haven't looked at different alternatives, that we have not really had the opportunity to go back to our constituents and say, this is the advantage, disadvantages, and this is why we're doing it this way. So can you speak to that? Because I think we need to do some work there.
Yeah, there.
Better just turn this one off.
Okay. Thank you.
Absolutely, and thank you for that. I will say, we have been focused obviously on establishing the baseline, but in parallel, which is something that is being held back a bit, because we're looking at what is the full waste stream currently, where are things going, what is the breakdown, what types of materials. That will inform and has been informing what can we do with the material, and that is a key part of 2 tasks, which is task 4, which is the future needs assessment. We're about 75% done with that. We anticipate having draft materials to be provided and presented to this group. And that will also incorporate the results of task 9, which is the innovative technologies piece. So we absolutely recognize that that is a critical question mark and focal point. And we will have working sessions with this group to make sure that we actually did have a working session with the executive director showing the preliminary scenarios. We're looking at 5 scenarios of different types of facilities, drop-offs, different ways to manage the waste stream. But that has been finalized at this stage because we're still making sure that we have a full handle on the picture of what is currently happening within the county.
Great.
And the volumes.
Thank you. But as far as once again, that you're talking about the decision making. What about the education for us to be able to understand before we get to this is what you're recommending that's the best, right? I get that. But what are the options? What are the pros and cons? I know you've got an individual who's spoken to us before that was really educated in this, but I haven't heard a thing since kind of that introduction. And that really concerns me. And so is that going to be part of the process?
It is. Task that I mentioned, that is a critical part of those tasks, which are still.
And do you have any feel for when that might be?
Let turn that down. You don't get some feedback. Thank you.
Next month, awesome. Thank you.
Also been speaking with Todd. There are plans, and it's part of the integrated communication plan, to do little mini education sessions. There's lots of videos. It's things that is part of the overall communication and outreach plan, and that includes outreach to youth as well and education. So there is that plan as well. We recognize that there's going to be a lot of things that you aren't familiar with, terminology, pros and that will be part of the education as we present draft materials to you, but also in advance of that so that you have some basis.
Thank you.
Member Gunn.
Yes, I just kind of scanning through the.
Would you pass the, thank you.
Thank you. I'm just kind of scanning through the draft 2 of that document. And I have a quick question. So under the city of Lauderdale's piece, it mentions that destination of materials from the city of Lauderdale was not found. Could you help me to understand what that means?
Sure, and that's part of the data request. We had been looking for the contracts, the hauling contracts, and then looking at really where is the material going? So is it going to Markville? Is it going to a certain recycling facility, certain CMV recycling facility? To the extent that you know that and can share, that would be helpful because we're doing a waste flow routing to really show everything.
Got it. So you requested a copy of those contracts and you were not provided with it?
We were provided with agreements, but in some instances they didn't specify. So we've tried to dig in a little bit deeper to the extent that it is available and known.
So here's my request. If there's something that you need from my city that you don't have that will move this process forward, it's why don't you just communicate it with me, and then that way I can have a conversation with our city manager. And if we have it, we'll get you what we need. I mean, instead of for me to glance at a report and see it in writing that my city is not giving you what you need. I mean, I'm here, right? And we're fully vested in the process. So that is a request. So if you would just tell me what you need and I'll work with the city manager's office to get it to you. Okay, so when is the second draft of this gonna be completed?
November 8th.
All right, so Todd, would you please send that request to me?
Yep.
And I'll forward it to the city manager and CC you. And then I'm noticing here that the city of Hollywood is completely excluded. And I know, member Shuham is a very active member of this committee, so I don't understand why it looks like the city of Hollywood didn't give you anything, but
No, yes. And when we shared, we did share individual excerpts to each community. So Hollywood got an excerpt of
I didn't get it. So we just, please, if we could just make sure, Todd, you know which 2 emails to use for me. I just am now seeing it because somebody sent it to me. All right, thank you.
We got one from it to the county too.
Yeah.
You're not included?
We got it, but Natasha picked it. Okay.
Member Harrison. Oh, I'm sorry, member me. Excuse me.
I know, I look like.
We're identical twins, actually. You had mentioned earlier in your presentation just now that there was some work that you were doing with the waste streams, breaking down the waste streams. There was information that came out early in the process several months ago that broke down that information. Are you finding some discrepancies between that information and what you're finding now?
So that part of the county-wide characterization and generation studies, that did not break it down granularly by city. So, and it also did not identify where the materials were going. It has what the materials are, what the composition, what percentages are yard waste, what percentages are food, but it didn't break it down granularly by city. And then the other piece of it too is the costs associated with that. So we are using the results of those 2 studies, absolutely. But now we're trying to dig deeper to understand the different disposal locations, because we obviously have to identify capacity long-term of each of those facilities, what's going to be needed, and how we can route things differently and ideally recover, reuse, pull things out, and then based on what is left, where can it go?
Thank you. Thank you. Any further questions? Very none. Thank you very much. Moving on to the county update. We'll work first with the county and who's Kevin Keller.
Morning, Chair.
Hello?
Okay.
Yeah.
I get that. Morning, Chair, Vice Chair, Solid Waste Authority. I'm Kevin Keller, Assistant County Administrator for Broward County. And I've been asked to give an update on Monarch Hill. And as I have stated in previous updates, the County Commission will be considering a number of items related to Monarch Hill that
That decision will be made on November 12th. There'll be public hearings of the Broward County Commission on 4 items related to Monarch Hill. The first 2 are companion land use plan amendments to change the designation of.
I think these mics are a little better.
Yeah.
Better?
You might be
Not
able
on.
to
There you go. Nope, not on yet.
Has to go through this every time.
Well, usually we're not in this room.
Hello.
There you
Is that better?
Yep.
Is that better than before? Sorry, I don't speak as loud as I should. So the first 2 are companion items on the land use plan amendment, related to a 24.2 acre parcel that Waste Management has requested to change the designation from the electrical generation facility to commerce or industrial. And the reason why there's 2 items is because the county is responsible for the overall master plan. And then because this is in unincorporated Broward County, the county is also sits as the head of the Broward Municipal Service District, kind of like a city would. So those, and I'm gonna explain a little bit more about the land use planning process. And after this, the Waste Management will be giving a presentation as to their request and why they believe it's necessary. But the other 2 items that are going is there's a zoning code amendment that will change, to increase the height of the A6, the agricultural disposal designation, to 325 feet. So that allows landfill to go up to 325 feet. And then there's another ordinance change that will eliminate garbage above 225. So what will happen is anything above 225 feet would be what is called summit waste, which is your C and D, your bulky, it's not your municipal solid waste. So those are the 4 items that will be heard on November 12th in public hearing before the Broward County Commission. But in talking about the land use plan process, the land use plan process is, the county is responsible for the whole countywide land use designation. These are the general categories that determine what can be done with certain properties. So the county has to sit, the county commission has to sit and make these determinations. Whenever there's a land use plan amendment, the applicant, the property owner, has the right to be heard by the governing body, which in this case is the county commission. So that is what has to be heard. They have that right. Doesn't mean that they get the correct rule fit or the ruling that they're looking for, but they do have the right to be heard. Now, if they get an adverse ruling, they do have various challenges that they can do for that. The state of Florida does have very robust private property so that'll come out to that. And then the determination that the county commission sits at when they sit hearing the application is whether the requested amendment is compatible with adjacent property. So when Waste Management shows you what they're requesting, no, sorry.
Not just got it.
Yeah.
How about this?
Much better.
Yeah.
Do I got to start over?
No, that's good. Like, if he holds it, it's fine, Clay.
If I hold it up, I have no problem holding it. Where do you want me to go back to? We'll just continue.
Continue.
Okay.
We're here to find Clay. Okay.
Okay. That's better. I can hear myself now.
Okay.
So if I nod off, then you'll know why.
Mhm.
So the board has to sit in when they are making the determination, they're making the determination based on, is it compatible use of the adjacent parcel? And what you're probably going to see from Waste Management is why they believe that it is compatible. And then last, it's important to know, before I hand it over to Waste Management, it's important to know that
if these ordinances, and changes, just by them being approved by the board, if they are approved, don't automatically apply. It doesn't mean that the landfill goes up the next day. There is still a permitting and licensing and zoning process that would go through that would address, other concerns that may come up. So with that, if there's any questions about the process and how it went, how we got to where we are, I'll be happy to explain it before we hand it over to Waste Management so they can describe the request.
Thank you. Member New, Stuhan.
Two questions. First, you said there were 4 items. I have
Doesn't sound like so. Okay. Yeah.
first. I'll talk about. Two
I'll
questions.
repeat the question.
You said there were 4 items, the LUPA, the electrical, the LUPA from electric generation to either commercial or industrial, one. The second was,
That's 2.
oh, that's.
There's 2. There's the county one to do for the county, the county land use plan. And then we have, the county commission sits, because it's an unincorporated, they sit as a city would over the BMSD. And they have to adjust their map as well. So it's,
Same issue as
same
five.
issue, yeah.
Okay.
Now, for all clarity, one says electrical generation to commerce, the other one says electrical generation to industrial.
No, I-
But that's,
And then, respect to the zoning code, where you're going to 325 feet, what is it?
currently the zoning code is 125 feet. However, through the variance process that's allowable, they currently have a variance to 225.
Any other questions? Thank you very much. Now here, we'll now, smile. Okay. We will now hear from the waste management presentation.
Thank you very much. I just want to introduce myself. My name is Bill Laystrom. I've been practicing law in Broward County for about 45 years, and I've actually represented waste management for all of those 45 years. So hopefully, to the extent you have historical questions, I can answer those too. I'm proud to represent them for this land use plan amendment, the code amendment. Code amendments are actually county amendments that the county has been proposing. They're not ours, but I'm happy to answer questions regarding anything you may have. There's no question that can't be answered. I have a great team with me. I want to just introduce real quick Chris Carey. Chris will be up with me to do some of the operational side of the Monarch Hill facility. I have Dawn McCormick. Dawn is probably one of the preeminent 3 or 4 speakers in all of state of Florida and the United States on recycling. Our presentation is not primarily focused on recycling, but that's kind of the flip side of landfills. And we want to be able to answer any questions. We are proud to announce to those who haven't heard that we're currently under construction for our $90 million recycling facility in Pembroke Pines. It'll be going next to the Reuter recycling facility that's there today. It'll be state of the art. And she's happy to give you the details of that to the extent that that assists you in looking at what we're proposing today. And last, but certainly not least, Barbara Herrera. Barbara and I are the outreach portion of the landfill. We have been reaching out to Independence Bay waterways. I'll point them out on some later. They're the closest neighborhoods to us, as well as we've probably taken 150 to 200 people from Winmore on our tour that you're going to get to see virtually today. We do want to offer you an opportunity to take our tour. Our tour includes not only the Monarch Hill landfill, but directly across the street, we have a brand new construction demolition debris recycling facility. We'd love to show you that as well. And now play first street.
Since 1965, Monarch Hill Landfill has been a regional facility meeting the environmental and waste management needs of Broward County. The landfill has historically accepted a combination of household garbage, construction and demolition waste, and storm debris. Today, only approximately 6 years of capacity remain, and the landfill is no longer able to accept storm or hurricane debris. This means that in the event of a major storm event in the coming years, the debris will need to be transported out of county, adding significant additional cost and time to cleanup efforts. To continue to meet the disposal needs of Broward County, WM is therefore seeking approval for a land use plan amendment for a 24-acre parcel within the footprint of the landfill, the former Wheelabrator North site, for additional landfill capacity. This represents an increase of just 5.6% in the landfill footprint. In addition, WM is asking for a height variance from 225 feet to 325 feet to maximize the vertical height and capacity of the landfill. If the land use plan amendment and height variance are approved, WM has agreed to stop accepting municipal solid waste or household garbage at Monarch Hill Landfill. This means that the site would then only manage construction and demolition debris and bulky waste, which comprises things like discarded furniture, carpeting, and other large items, most of which have already been processed for recycling at other WM facilities. It is in Broward County's best interest to provide for future landfill capacity in the county for this material, along with storm and hurricane debris. If the land use plan amendment and height variance are not approved, the landfill gas to energy plant at Monarch Hill, which currently powers nearly 9,000 homes a day with renewable energy, will need to be taken down for additional landfill capacity. And if Monarch Hill landfill is not permitted to use all its potential space, there would be a significant increase in truck traffic, greenhouse gas emissions, and disposal costs for Broward businesses and residents, as the material would be transported nearly 100 miles away to Okeechobee landfill. For residents, this means that every construction project, every roof that's replaced, and every kitchen or bathroom that is remodeled will cost the taxpayer more for the disposal of the waste generated during construction and renovation projects. Thank you for your consideration and support as WM works to meet the environmental needs of Broward County.
So very quickly on the Monarch Hill remaining capacity, that number keeps changing. Kind of as a background, we filed this application approximately 5 years ago. I'm looking at the different cities that are represented here, and I've probably done a land use amendment in just about every one but Southwest Ranges. And we have spent a great deal of time on this, but I want to describe the process a little bit to you. So as Kevin said, there are 2 land use amendments. One is for the county sitting as our city, and they have an entire staff that reviews that, for everything from traffic to environmental concerns to permitting to compatibility, you name it. We went through that process, and then we go back to the county for the county land use amendment. Now, in this particular instance, there is a difference between the city plan, which allows industrial is where a landfill would go, and the county where they had incorporated all of the office, retail, and commercial uses and industrial into the commerce district. So we actually have 2 separate applications, 2 separate reviews, and that package is reviewed by a different set of staff at the county, the Broward County Planning Council staff. So this project has gone through over the last 5 years, 2 complete reviews of the county, and now it is ready to be heard. And why is that important? Well, it's not just that it's 6 years. So the last portion of our landfill is where the current energy plant is that converts the methane gas into energy. And we need to start preparing that to be filled. And that includes liners, It's already permitted. It just needs to have the construction for the liners because as we indicated, we are starting to fill up. Next slide. Yes, next slide. So this slide is important. I'm going to start with, we take in almost all construction demolition debris. It's about 90% of construction demolition debris. We actually have an agreement with the city of Coconut Creek to limit the municipal solid waste, which is the garbage, to 175,000 tons per year. And we do intend to honor that all through this process.
You put that in writing, Phil?
Yes, I will. Yes, I have no problem. That was mentioned at our county commission meeting the other day. I just want to make sure. So we have an obligation with Coconut Creek for that. And so now we are asking to basically increase the area by 24 acres to add what was once the waste to energy plant site. The only use, so it's the only district in the county that only has one use, waste to energy. And that was the designation they put on it back in 1990 when they built the plant. And it's now time to, I call it, fill out the rest of our footprint. And if we get the height increase, that provides, each provides us with about 6 to 7 years of additional capacity. So if we were, because we don't necessarily get both, if we were to get the height increase, we anticipate about 6 to 7 years. If we get the land use amendment, we anticipate 6 to 7 years. And then what's the alternatives? I mean, you know, it's a landfill. We'd rather not be in the landfill. Well, the first thing you need to do is look at some numbers and go back to the wheel chart if you could play. So 43% of what we take in is actually construction and demolition debris. We take in about 2.4 million tons of construction demolition debris. This chart I took from the solid waste summit that the South Florida Regional Planning Council had to show Broward County's waste stream kind of divided up by what it is. And what you'll see is that we're probably dealing with the largest portion of your waste stream in comparison to your municipal solid waste. That 2.4 million tons is then reduced to 1.2 million by going through our recycling process. We, in addition to the plant that you saw on the video, we also have an additional plant in central Broward, and one of our competitors also operates a construction demolition debris facility as well. And what I tell everybody is the other 50%, let's go attack that. But if you were to start today to recycle those products, which for us are not, we can't do that, that's going to take 3 years, 5, 10 to put together a facility to actually do that work. And so the challenge is we've kind of run out of time over the 5 years that we've been working on this application to get to that point. What are your alternatives? Well, one was mentioned, well, you can open up the Broward County landfill and we'll just take everything there because the 1.2 million tons is coming. That's about 5,000 tons a day, give or take. So if we were to do that, one of the statements at the Broward County Commission meeting was that, well, the landfill in western Broward County has 40 years of life. Well, that's because it's not being used. So yes, currently it has 40 years. We anticipate it would have probably 7 to 8 years. And the county has set aside that facility for storms. I mean, I can only tell you Fort Myers, what did they do? They had to take off the cap on their landfill when that storm hit because they had no capacity to remove their debris. Or they have to truck it miles and miles and miles. And the time it takes to truck it, it creates an additional disaster on top of a disaster. And Milton and Helene are doing the exact same thing in Taylor County and Pinellas. You have to have that capacity. It's not just space for construction and demolition debris. The county has at least up till November 12th has stayed consistent that we want to keep our landfill available for that day when we absolutely need it. And so we become the construction and demolition debris site for Broward County. Again, 43% of your solid waste is construction, demolition debris, and yard waste. So I don't have this slide, but it's your slide, and you did a composition study. And that composition study said, well, what can we do with the waste that we had? And you'll recall that there was a wedge of 21% that you couldn't do anything. And if you assume that the county generates about 4 to 5 million tons of solid waste a year, that's 800 to 1 million tons that your expert today that did your composition study for the South, for your group, said, we can't do anything with that. We have a lot of things we can focus on. I don't want, this is opportunities. I know that word. And you have a lot of opportunities for recycling and everything else. That will extend our life. That's what we want to do. And so what's the other choice? Well, the other choice is we can put all that construction demolition debris, municipal solid waste that is beyond what is currently being handled at the waste to energy plant. We can put it in trucks and go to, you don't have to go to Okeechobee. One of our competitors has a facility in St. Cloud, which is a little bit further, but about the same distance. And those trucks can go up and down the turnpike and attempt to deliver them. We estimate $25 a ton extra that's not being paid today based on just the truck. It's not our cost, it's just the trucking cost. And ultimately it comes to us anyway. But why Monarch Hill? Well, Monarch Hill is already sited. The problem we have is in Broward County, we're not going to be able to site an additional landfill anywhere. You're going to have to utilize the facilities you have to the maximum ability possible. So this decision is not for today or tomorrow. This decision is for the next 15 years while you put together a plan to potentially attack the additional construction demolition debris, composting. We have tried to address as many of the concerns as we've heard in our effort to respond to concerns from every avenue. Part of what we're proposing is to provide space at Okeechobee, which is a much larger facility, for composting. Should you decide, the county decide to do a composting operation, we would be able to run that there. So you may not face that challenge of trying to decide whether it would be in Southwest Ranches, it would be on the 24 acres at our site, it would be someplace else where you're not going to have anything but opposition. And I've been around a long time, so I'm going to tell this story. So back when the two waste energy plants were proposed, there was a third proposal. It's actually called Rooter. At the time, it was Rooter Recycling. And what Rooter wanted to do is compost. And they wanted to compost out in western Broward County, site of where our recycling facility is today. They brought that German technology here. It heated up under the sun. And after 8 years, they had to close the facility because of all the concerns of the residents miles and miles away. I'm not saying that composting today is the same as then, but 5 cities broke off then and made the decision to do that composting. And it didn't work. So as you're looking at where things go, look at reliable technology, but more importantly, understand that at the end of the day, we've got 43% construction demolition debris, and you got 21% that's not recyclable of your entire waste stream. Now, we want to do things. That's why we're doing our recycling plan. We're doing that in the face of potentially this board deciding to actually build a recycling facility themselves and potentially, be in competition with us. And if you drop the price low enough, it would make it virtually impossible. But we have a safe sustainability goal in waste management, and we were able to acquire those funds from our corporate office to get that facility started. And we certainly hope that we'll have a long-term agreement with you, but if we don't, we understand that, and that's going to be your decision, not mine. Next slide. So I talked a little bit about the recycling. We won't go into any more details, but again, I have my team here. And then the non-recyclable residue, at least for our facility, is directly across the street. That's why when Kevin discussed compatibility, what's across the street from the land, so the landfill surrounds the 24 acres on 3 sides. So we have landfill on 3 sides. Then on the north of us is a heavy industrial section of the city of Deerfield, which includes our construction demolition debris. It includes what's called a transfer station. And just transfer station, for those who may not be fully aware, is basically a cement floor with a roof and open sides. And that's where you put the garbage from the small trucks and you put it on the big trucks. And the reason that's important is because that happens to be where Deerfield sends their garbage, right across the street to the north. And then you have an asphalt batching plant, you have another transfer station, and some heavy industrial. This is one of those places in Broward County where the heavy industrial uses have gone. And so the land use amendment starts the process. I do the land use amendment, then I have to do a rezoning. I'm anticipating that rezoning will take 8 to 10 months because I don't get to do a landfill if I get this land use plan. All I get to do is commerce or industry, depending on whether I'm in the city district or the county district. And that then allows the county commission to consider the zoning, which would then allow the landfill. That's the hearing where we decide at the end of the day whether or not this is going to be a landfill use, A6, or it's going to be a classic industrial use, or whatever the county may ultimately decide to designate it. We anticipate, we certainly are proposing to go to A6 and that we do it as a landfill. That's why I went ahead and didn't just file the application. I had told everybody at every stage, we intend to add it to the landfill so that we didn't get the pushback of, well, you're not telling us what you're going to use it for. And you say it's commerce today. And in reality, it's not a site for a commercial facility. It's not a site for an office building. It could be a site for another asphalt batching plant if it were changed. Next slide. So what about storm debris? Bill, you talked about construction demolition debris. You talked about everything that goes in there, but you haven't talked about what happens in a storm. So we put together a quick example for Irma, which many may not even really remember too much. And we had 12,000 tons per day coming into the landfill rather than 5,000 tons. We also are the overflow stop point for anything that can't go to the waste to energy plant today because you're at capacity. So when it gets overloaded, it goes to the transfer stations, and then subject to our agreement with Coconut Creek gets to the maximum, it can come to our facility. The once a year volume, came in 4 months, and that was a modest storm. So that 8-year estimate I gave, for instance, for the county's landfill, if you were to open it up, if that's ultimately the decision the county would make, you might be closed. It might be closed in 4 or 5 years if you have a significant storm. And you'll need all the assets in that Milton situation. It won't just be Monarch Hill. It'll be Monarch Hill, I call it BIC, that's what I've always called it for years, and probably Okeechobee, just to try to get that much debris out. And I'm sure you saw the pictures in Milton before the storm, everybody desperately still trying weeks later to get rid of the debris that was on the street still from the first hurricane, from the second hurricane. And everything about cleanup, in addition to safety, is time. And the time it takes for that truck to drive up, it's 100 miles, going 50 miles an hour, they got to get in line, wait. So it's probably a 5 to 6 hour round trip. If you were to make the decision, we're just going to send everything out of our county, we're going to give it to Okeechobee, it would take a 6-hour round trip for every truckload that's going. Now, what you would do is probably cannibalize your parks so that you can stack the storm debris at your parks and other public facilities that you might have, and then try to run it up there as fast as you can. But trying to get those trucks, for those who've gone through these last storms, it can be extremely difficult. The trucking industry is very fickle, and you may have enough trucks, you may have to have it sit there for a while. Next slide. So we have the 24-acre site that we want to change the land use to. We We have asked to, we certainly support increasing the height to 325. As Kevin said, the current height, if you drive by, a majority of the landfills at about 220, 219. As you drive by it on the turnpike, and that's because we save a small space for a cap once the landfill is closed. We have a 30-year responsibility for the landfill once it is closed, before it can be used for anything. And we certainly intend to honor that. We posted massive bonds if the state is part of their permitting authority for that closure, those closure costs. I have not gone into the intricate detail of the land use amendment, but I want to talk about it very quickly. So we have done environmental studies. The county has reviewed environmental studies. We have groundwater testing all throughout our site. We have methane extraction techniques that we're using. We beefed them up. We had some challenges in about 2017, 2018 with some heavy rain. So we beefed that up. But we think we have an outstanding record there. But I have all those answers. If those are the questions you're asking, it's just, that's really for the land use plan hearing as much as it is for this board. Next slide. So to give you a quick idea, so here's the size of the landfill, 370 acres plus or minus, and then the 24-acre site. As you can see, it's just a notch, I call it, inside the half donut or U. And directly across the street to the north, I described what was there. Those are those heavy industrial uses that I spoke about before. So if you're going to have a place in Broward County, there's only two. One is the county's facility and one is ours, because there's no place else to go in Broward County, certainly for the siting of a landfill where you need so much acreage to get it done. The notch at the bottom, for those who ask, is Florida Power and Light power station, major power station, as well as our part of our hot hauling company is down there as well. So we are not going to be able to go to the, I guess, kind of southeast corner. Next slide. So this is the current permitted area for our landfill. And you'll notice that the green includes the northwest corner up in the upper left corner. That is the area where the current methane plant is, and it's our last cell. So we're ready to start preparing that cell if we don't have more space, and taking that, we'll have to remove that plant in order to use that space, put in the liners that we have to put in, and do all the work. And between the permitting, the lining, we anticipate that that's going to take 4 or 5 years to get that ready to start using. And that's why the urgency has gotten here for this facility and this land use amendment. It's just, it's time. It would fill out the footprint. There's no reasonable areas to the north of us that we could fill. You can see the areas to the south, those little small areas along Sample Road at the bottom left and the turnpike are actually areas where we have our stormwater. I can answer all sorts of questions on stormwater as well. Each of these cells, when they're closed, are not only lined on the bottom, they're also then capped with a liner as well, so that the rain doesn't keep going in and can basically compost the landfill. Next slide. And this just shows the permitted area if we were to obtain the land use plan amendment. Next slide. And now I'm gonna let Chris Carey speak. Probably talked too much already, tired of me. But we are absolutely here for any and all questions. And the questions don't have to be now. They can be on your tour. If we can get you out there, it can be as part of the future. You can just call, email. Todd has my contact information. You can certainly get in touch with Chris or I. Thank you.
Thank you. Just keeping in mind, we've got 35 minutes left and we have a number of other people that need speaking questions to handle. Carol, you wanted to have a, Member Shuham has a question, Bill, of you. Bill. Carol, Member Shuham has questions.
Chris probably knows better.
When you're talking about option one and option two, option one, you said will give you 6 to 7 years, and option two, you said with for option two, 6 to 7 years, but the condo would be 16. Can you explain that?
I probably just.
So those are estimates, okay? We haven't done the final engineering on that. We think we're gonna get about 8 years from each one combined.
So that's
for
makes sense.
16.
And then I know we're gonna hear from the city, but I wanted to hear your understanding, Bill, of the city's objection.
So I'll take, well, we're gonna hear from the city afterwards. The city is next to the landfill, as Bill said. We've had an agreement with the city of Coconut Creek on the limits, on some limitations on material that we can take into that. That agreement is almost 15 years old, I think. We've always honored it, and we intend to honor it. If you're happy to talk to them some more about that. I'll let them tell you what their specific issues are.
This is for Bill. To get us to today, can you tell us any preliminary administrative steps or other boards and what the outcomes were? So those of us that haven't been so deeply involved,
So,
know what issues have been determined.
So no issues have been determined. So the process starts at the county, but at the, I call it the city level. They have a city development review committee meeting. That committee met, and the recommendation is it's compatible, but it's a landfill, for lack of a better. Well, nobody wants, I mean, I'm being honest. I mean, nobody is their first choice, certainly with neighborhood concerns, wants to increase the size of the landfill. It's just, we're at a point where we don't have any choice. The planning council, we did go to the planning council as well. They did recommend against it. But it was, in my mind, a short-term recommendation, meaning let's not do it now. And we've been at that stage for the last 3 of 5 years, which is, well, let's just wait. We were actually originally scheduled in January, I think, of this year for our adoption hearing. And we then moved to May, moved to September, and now look like would be heard in November. As I said, we don't want to take out that plant and then have somebody tell me yes, because your plan, whether it comes out in November, which is what that's why we ended up for a November hearing. It comes out in February. Even if it comes out, you all still haven't debated it. And I would think that that's going to take a great deal of time, and you have no current mechanism for the funding. So to me, at the end of the day, you've got 21% of your waste stream that your own study shows can't go anywhere. So we have to do something with that. And I actually believe that by the time you are able to implement the things you want to in the volume that it takes for Broward County today, that's going to be 5 to 7 years at a minimum, And that doesn't count doing the garbage and municipal solid waste and how you handle that. That's even a much bigger issue. Recycling, I mean, I will just tell you that my experience with the Resource Recovery Board for all the things that maybe it didn't do or should have done, they did an outstanding job with recycling education. We're getting $35 a ton to spend on. And again, at the end, that board had a majority of municipal votes. So that's the easy stuff. Mayor Ryan, other Mayor Ryan and I disagree on a lot of things, but he talked about low-hanging fruit, and that is actually correct. Education, it's easy. It could get started right away for recycling. That improves our life. One storm, all these estimates are without storms. So that becomes the challenge. And based on more recent history, it appears that we're certainly going to get a brush with something more significant in the next 5 years. And then it'll be too late, because just to get for this, the land use site, to get the permitting there probably is 3 years. Just to get the permitting. That's not counting the zoning and everything else. We need federal, state, local, and then we have to build it. because you still have to build a cell. So I probably talked too much, but
Carol, let me add one part. With the planning council, they found that the land use part consistent with, in terms of compatibility. The part that was found inconsistent had to do with the waste energy plant and the overall look from the county of wanting to make sure that we had a way of dealing with, we didn't want, that was the only place that we had for waste energy at the time, other than David, that was listed that, and the idea of removing that went against the overall solid waste element. And Natasha, if I'm saying something wrong, this, but that's, so the county commission did defer it, asked to defer it because we wanted to look into the possibility of using the electrical, doing a WTE. When that came up, actually Coconut Creek had said, we asked Coconut Creek at the time, are you willing to put another waste energy plant there? And they said, yes. That gave us time to go back and take a look at it. It looks like a mad back if you go walking in there, because it's totally gone. It's totally gone. And so, and the other part of it is, I think this board and a lot of people that were part of the RV with history, the idea that one of the things I think stuck in everybody's craw a little bit was that we didn't own it. We didn't own the waste energy plant. And in the end, you know, I still wish we had held on to that plan. I can't believe that we allowed that to get, but we didn't own it. So there was consistency in terms of landfill. Yeah, I think originally it was landfill, then it went to electrical generation.
that is correct.
So it's going back to landfill.
It was industrial before it was.
Yeah. But we wanted to be able to take a good look at whether or not that was going to be replaced for waste energy.
And I always have to follow up with, I call that history that makes it sound like you didn't get your plan. So back in that day, Waste Management had one waste energy plant. Reuter, I've already told you, did the recycling composting facility out in Pembroke Pines, and a company called Wheelabrator did the other plant. We put the bonds out. We guaranteed the bonds. All you guaranteed, and you're going to be talking a lot about flow control, is you guaranteed to send us your garbage, whatever that was. The technology was fairly new at the time. Now ours turned out, based on 30, 40 years worth of service, turned out great. The composting at that time did not. And so we took the risk. And so Chris gave me this one. I look at it as, we bought the house. We paid for the mortgage, right? And then you sent us the rent, which was the garbage. And at the end of the day, yes, you did not own those, although you do own the land under one. You don't own them, but you didn't have the risk 20 years ago when those bonds went out. And I just.
And that's accurate.
Yeah, and I just want to make that clear because we often get hit with a lot of things and sometimes we probably are guilty, but that was not one of them. It was the risk at the time. County wanted somebody else to do the job. And we did one, and again, Wheelabrator did the other. At the end of the day, by the way, this gentleman, I didn't introduce him completely. He also ran our waste energy facilities for Waste Management and for a time ended up in China doing waste to energy facilities. So the extent you have any waste to energy questions, please feel free to ask him on operations or otherwise.
Now we're down to 25 minutes. Thank you very much.
All right, that was the goal, I guess. So Chris Perry, WM. I did work in the waste energy business for a long time. I've also been in the composting business, also been in the anaerobic digestion business, which would get into the garbage, which we can't get out. So I'm very familiar with what you're doing. One point I wanted to make was that it's lost in the shuffle a little bit, but what we're talking about here as WM is really compatible, very compatible with what you all are talking about. You're talking about composting, you're talking about removing the organics from the waste stream, you're talking about potentially doing other things with increasing recycling. We're doing all of those same things. And the proposal that we're making here is to remove that organic fraction from the waste stream Send it somewhere else. Now, I will caution you, I hear people say, oh, we shouldn't be putting anything from out of county in Monarch Hill. Ban out of county waste. Well, I'll just say that's a slippery slope for you folks. Because Broward County sends nearly 500,000 tons a year of its waste out of county. So if other counties decide to follow suit, I'm not sure what you're gonna do with that. But what we're saying is Monarch Hill is 90% today bulky waste and construction and demolition debris. And that construction and demolition debris is being run through our recycling centers right now. We're reducing the volume of that by about 50%. Bulky waste, you don't get as much. And then we also take the residuals from the recycling facility. All of that household recycling for the city that do it goes out to rooters, or mostly goes to our facility in rooters that we're currently building a brand new facility on. But there's a significant amount of residue that comes out of that. It's the garden hoses that get thrown in there. It's the kids' toys that gets thrown in there. It's quite frankly the garbage that gets thrown in there when their garbage bin is full. They just start throwing it into the recycling, right? So that has to have some place to go, and that goes into Monarch Hill. And we do have up to 175,000 tons a year of that household waste that still goes into Monarch Hill. That's part of the proposal that we all put in there. So just a couple things. Bill touched on nearly everything, but you know, we're right now at around 210, 215 in parts of the hill. The current permit allows us to go to 225. So we're running out of room. It's shaped like a pyramid. For every foot you go up, you actually move in 3 feet. So that's why I've got some pictures later of some renderings we do. You don't really have the same perspective. It's not like standing next to a 300-foot building. Only the center of it would reach 300 feet. So here we asked an artist to do some renderings. We could make your own opinion whether they're accurate or not. It's not all that significant. The one at the top is Wild Road, the kind of corner of Wild and Power Line. Presently, on the left is 225 feet, and on the right is adding that extra 100 feet. And the reason it doesn't look so significant is as you go up that 300 feet, you go a football field's distance away from the canyon. So it just doesn't look as significant. And then the second one is Independence Bay, which is a community just across the lake from us, just north of the site. You got Wild Road, where you've got, as Bill said, 4 waste facilities over there, 2 of which are ours and 2 of them. Go ahead. So the question comes up, why now? Why now? We get this all the time. Hey, why do we have to do this now? Why can't we wait? Why can't we wait for this? Why can't we wait for that? And the reason is simply that we're running out of room to operate. As that pyramid gets higher, the area gets smaller. Bill said we're taking in about 5,000 tons a day right now. During storm events, it's been 15,000 tons or more. We've had to run extended hours and whatnot. And right now we're at the situation where if a storm hits Broward County, like just hit on the West Coast, Pinellas and Hillsborough County, we don't have the room to take that material. You're following what happened there. The Pinellas County landfill was closed initially for storm debris after first week, I think. The county said, we're not opening that because that's our last remaining capacity. And complaints rose up to the governor's office. 2 days later, the National Guard broke the gate down. Stormed the gate. Now it's open. Other than that, though, material is piling up over there. I was just there last week. They have yet to really start moving a significant amount of material because there really isn't an outlet and there aren't trucks available. That's a simple fact. So we're going to have to start, as Bill said, backing down on the volume. And we're going to have to start in January because we just don't have the room to operate. We've got to take down that gas to energy facility if we're unsuccessful. Got to go through a demolition process there. Then we've got to go through a construction process. We just don't have room for trucks. So that facility powers about 9,000 homes. It destroys, the natural gas and methane generated from the landfill. And that's going to be a shame because then we will be left to simply flare that natural gas off and not get into it. Go ahead, Glenn. If you guys have any questions as we go, this is a little timeline that I put together. It's an estimate. It's a best guess. It shows, us going from 1.4 million tons. We start backing that down. We're not going to back it down immediately, but I kind of every other year took a chunk out of it. So you see, we say we have 6 years of life left. Well, that's 6 years of life at present volume. We can't run it 100 miles an hour right up to the end and stop. So we've got to kind of ease that down. And then, as Bill said, for every ton that we don't take in, we've got to put that in truck and truck it to at least Okeechobee, which today is $27 a ton. And so it's really simple math. If you take out 300,000 tons next year, it's about $9 million. And then for every 100,000 tons, it's another $3 million. And that's cost that's got to be paid from something, from somewhere. It's got to be passed along to the customer and the residents. Again, Bill touched on this. We took a look at the Broward County landfill because people have said, hey, we've got our own landfill out there. In Pembroke Pines, I guess, kind of Pembroke Pines, Southwest Ranches area. Why not use that? There's plenty of room out there. Well, there's plenty of room out there at the dribble that goes in there today, which I think is 100,000 tons a year. So imagine taking that to 1.3, 1.4 million. Your life out there goes from what might be 50 years at the present rate with storm capacity. It was always called the interim contingency landfill years ago when I first moved to Florida. I think they've changed the name of it now, but it was always for that emergency capacity. So within 8 years, if nothing changes, that will be completely full. Bill said if we get a storm, all bets are off. So that's really a short-term stopgap solution. It is not a long-term solution. Go ahead. So what does denial mean? If we're unsuccessful, what is going to happen? As I said, we're going to start backing down that volume. Over time, we're going to back all of that volume down. What does that mean? So I just ran some quick numbers. You lose the gas to energy plant. You start flaring all of that gas off, basically just burning it to destroy the gas. It'll take 7,500 tractor trailer loads a month to move that material out. So that's 7,500 truckloads a month heading north to either Okeechobee or St. Cloud. We'll burn some 3.5 million gallons of diesel fuel a year to do that. And we'll generate 40,000 tons of greenhouse gas just from the trucks going up and down the road. And then the cost of that has got to be borne by the residents of Broward County. In today's dollars, it's about $40 million. So that's the impact, guys. It's not a threat. We've been accused of threatening people. It's the reality. We can't continue to stuff that into that box. The box is all. So, any questions?
Yeah, couple of questions.
I've got another slide, or I have to take questions down.
That's gonna wait till the.
Almost. So what does approval mean? So approval means that we would avoid those 7,500 trucks a year on the road. We would avoid burning 3.5 million gallons of diesel fuel. We would avoid emitting another 40,000 tons of greenhouse gas. We would continue to provide renewable energy for approximately 9,000. And we would have a solution for storm debris for the next roughly 20 years while the infrastructure is built out, the new systems come into place, recycling increases, all of those things. We're not in a position today to manage those materials any other way. I don't know where, if Monarch Hill closes tomorrow, I honestly, we don't have the infrastructure to build it. That's got to be built over time. So one other question, Bill just passed me a note because I neglected to talk about out-of-county waste. I mentioned, people suggesting that we should ban out-of-county waste. The reality is very little out-of-county waste comes into Monarch Hill. We take a little bit from our C&D recycling center in Palm Beach. We take a little bit from a center in Dayton, but it's less than 10% of the volume that goes there. So our ability to eliminate out-of-county waste today is actually not a big deal for us.
Thank you. Member Cruz.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, so really, I get that, and that's. But what I'm hearing is that what we're talking about is that business as usual continues. Basically, we're still handling everything the way it is, what goes to the dump, goes to the dump, and this is how much life and capacity we have to continue like that. But to me, and Barbara's fantastic, but it's something we've had a conversation about. To me, the key is not to have business as usual. The key is to move from a single stream to multi-stream so that maybe composting has not worked in the past, but it needs to work in the future. You know, there are other things that we're going to be discussing, which is why I brought it up earlier in the meeting where we need to understand better, but there are other solutions where we start reducing what's going to this landfill in the first place. And I'm not hearing any of that. What I'm hearing is business as usual. We're just going to keep trucking and trucking until we run out of room and build it higher. And maybe if that, I think that we're missing something there. And here's a separate question, just something I've never heard about. And I'm actually an honest question. Nothing beside, just an honest question. Is there any sort of thought for harvesting out of those landfills as it degrades? Is there anything beneficial in there so that it can actually be reduced in size?
So let me take the first one. Okay. So I perhaps I didn't make myself clear, but what I was trying to tell you was that the things that are going into that landfill are generally non-recyclable. Most of it, or it's already been through a recycling process. Now, I think when you talk about the composting things and doing different things, what they decide to anaerobically digest organics or that, all of that is great, and we agree with you. But that's not here today. In the interim, and I think it's a transition. People want to go to zero waste or 75% recycling and all that. We're the biggest recycler in North America. So we agree with all that, but it's a process to get there. You can't go from where you are today to that in one step. I think it's going to take 20 years to get there. And I think that this is part of that solution.
And I don't dispute any of that, but I think one of the keys is go from the single stream. You know, the contamination right now that's happening is causing an incredible amount of debris that could in fact be recycled or repurposed to be contaminated and end up in a landfill. And it's those kinds of things. It seems like, and this is really where I'm going to, does WM have any thought or planning towards going toward multi-stream, even though it may be more costly? I know I can only speak for Southwest, right? And we have already made in the past the decision to pay more to do recycling than to not do recycling. We're behind it. We stand behind it with our tax dollars. We're willing to pay for it. And I believe we would be willing to do multi-stream if we understood that it was going to be used and done properly. And so does WM have any commitment or plans to go towards multi-stream so that we can move forward in this?
So I forget what your other question was that I didn't answer.
I get back to
The automation and
No, I got it. You can clean it up if I need. So we're reacting to what different cities demanded and put out. You know, we have the ability to go to dual stream now. The facility that we're building, we're just breaking ground on right now, is going to have a lot of optical scanners and technology, AI, to be able to handle single stream much better. But if you want dual stream, we can give you dual stream. The issue is most of the cities aren't willing to pay for that. You may be unique. Many of the cities aren't even recycling today. So yes, we can respond to that. And Don, is there anything else you want to say on?
Okay, well, that's a question that's open, because I can. I believe that's where we're gonna go.
I would suggest to you that let us get this facility up and running, and you may be satisfied with the result before you do that. You may not need to.
Well,
because it's just a matter
I'm
of.
not speaking out of a capacity need. I'm speaking out of a zero waste, the right thing to do. That's what I'm speaking of. So I think we will need to do, when you combine things together, contamination happens, and it's not as. The other question was, is there, and like I said, an honest question, I just never heard anybody talk about it. So while you're here, I wanted to see, is there any, in the future, the ability to kind of repurpose some of the material that's in these landfills into something else and, you know, and actually reduce the size of them?
I don't know anybody that's ever successfully mine the landfill. It's been tried. Because it breaks down, the material is very, very sticky, and most importantly for this landfill, the location of it, and when you start digging into an old landfill, my friends over here would probably put it in the state.
Okay.
We can do it in Collier County.
I was just curious. I never heard anybody talk about it.
Yeah, it's been tried. I mean, there was talk at one point of relocating the Key West landfill, because of the value of that land down there, and nobody had the excitement to do that once they got to look at what that might.
Thank you. With the remaining time we have left, we have Coconut Creek concerns with the amendment, followed by the attorney on the county.
Just gonna turn off the
Can
mic.
we get a copy of their presentation?
You know, the good news, you like Chris. Bill, we can get a copy of your presentation.
Yes.
Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. Josh Rydell. I sit on your governing board. I don't sit on your executive board, and I appreciate the time, executive director and Mr. Chair giving it to me. I have my public works director here. Listen, I think Bill's an extraordinary professional. We just disagree on some issues, and I think facts matter. And I have actual fact sheets that disproves facts they told you today. And that's just one of the things that I gotta mention first. And I'm gonna talk about objections, Member Shuhan, which I think is the most relevant thing. But first, before I do that, I want to talk to the most important people in the room, because at the end of the day, this amendment's going to be before Beam, no one else here in 3 weeks. And the most important people are in the room are the people here. And what I've heard coming to the past year of these meetings, sitting in the audience of the executive board meetings, is people don't want more waste energy. So if you don't want waste energy, you need to come on November 12th. Because the only other location for electrical generation in this county, they want to change the land use of that. So let's say the master plan is, and I think we're foolish to say.
The good people on,
What's it?
you need to speak into the mic.
Okay, I apologize, Greg. I'm usually a little louder, but I say it because if we lose that land use, it stifles an asset and an opportunity for the future. And I understand the majority of these people don't want waste energy. I get it. But there's an aspects, and I agree with Vice Mayor Fur, there's going to be needs to landfill. We're foolish to not think that the asset can all be closed and we can't do it anymore. But that's not what it's about. It's about the future planning. So today, just so you know, the city of Coconut Creek, through its settlement agreement, has engineering reports that we get from Waste Management. 15% is municipal waste that goes in the Monarch Pit. I have the data sheets in front of me. Out of the county, 80% is from Broward County, 14% is from Dade County, 1% is from Monroe County, and 5% is from Palm Beach County. That's about 20%, not 10% from Monmouth County. Now, let's talk about objections. Member Shuhan, I appreciate you bringing it up. There was a rejection saying, you know, I don't want to step on Vice Mayor Fur, but that board didn't want this. And here's the other thing. If this is rejected by the county commission, Bill could apply in a year again. So let's think about that. It's not a permanent ban. He could apply in a year. Well, this board figures out its opportunity and its assets. Giving up an electrical generation land use plan is candidly just foolish with what we're trying to do to move forward with assets and opportunities. Coconut Creek is not unreasonable, although some people on the county commission probably think we're unreasonable and Waste Management probably thinks we're unreasonable. We're not unreasonable. This is about agreement, understanding, and cooperation. So when we talk about this, and it's also important on the timeline they presented to all of you today, this has been going on for 5 years. The height expansion didn't come for about a year ago. And right before they put in for the land use change of plan amendment, they put in for a deep well injection fire that was rejected by the Broward County. So there's a little more history here than is factually presented. I'm not unreasonable. If this board that I'm blessed to sit on and hopefully sit in one of these chairs if these monthly meetings come next year, I will support any finding this board makes. I've said that to the county commission. I've said it to Beam personally. I will support the direction. I've said it to Todd when he came to Coconut Creek. As an elected official on behalf of my city, I will support these findings. But they're looking for a twofer right now. Do I believe there's compromise that can be done that the county could negotiate on to whether reduce the height, whether limit, not ban, Chris, candidly, because I do agree with you that we get in a slippery slope if you ban all out of county waste. That's not a position I'm taking, but limit out of county waste, right? I'm all for limiting MSD. I think that's something that they came forward with municipal process waste is a good thing. But this is an issue that I understand on a due process level has to come before the county commission. I understand it. But I also believe that there's remedies if it doesn't move forward. And this is an asset that I can't stand silently and give up. Coconut Creek has said publicly, well, all these people here don't want it. We said, build another waste to energy facility, a high-tech energy facility that there's plenty of vendors that can do it. Now, it's up to them. If they don't want to do it on their land, we can't make them do it. But the objections come from a negotiating point to what is being offered and presented now to what Coconut Creek believes would move the county forward in a more positive way. And this has been a regional issue in the past couple of years. It's been Coconut Creek and Deerfield against the county. We all get waste has to go somewhere, but there's a creative plan. I think, Waste Management also, aside from being the leader in recycling, they also own the most landfills in North America. So there's other parameters there to check the boxes. I've been speaking to Ron Bergeron, who for a long time was an expert in waste and recycling. Ron's position, candidly, he said he's been all over the country. He's never seen a landfill like this in such a highly urbanized area. So briefly, for some technical points of our objection and what's not addressed in the ordinance, I'm going to turn to my public works director. He's just got a couple quick technical comments. And I apologize for taking up time, but I knew they turned the heat up and they went long. They didn't want me to speak. But Harry, we can't have a little levity. Harry, please.
Hi, good morning, everyone. Just mentioned,
Introduce yourself.
my name is Harry Maudie. I'm the Public Works Director for the City of Coconut Creek. So it's not necessary to make this decision right now to expand this landfill and forever give up any future opportunity. Master plan is going to be completed in a few months. It'll be the most informative document we have to date. The county we're flying blind right now. The solid waste element the comprehensive plan wasn't updated since 2010. So what are we basing a long-term decision really on? The word of Waste Management? Well, the hype speaks to that. The county's currently landfilling and incinerating material. I said the county's taking up the corner of cities. I don't mean the accusation. We're landfilling and incinerating material that can be diverted through recycling, composting, and other processes. The master plan will provide a much more accurate picture of the landfill requirement for the future. How much recoverable material can be taken out of that stream? Landfilling is the last option. It's the worst option. The decision should not be made to expand the landfill before master plan is complete to determine if the land is suitable for another disposal process, anaerobic digestion or anything else, right? And to get to your point, what are those options? We're asked to make a decision now, and we don't even know the options. The plan will allow decision makers to discuss these options that are available with the community with facts, not just hearsay, not just what we think in the future that will happen. The area proposed for this lateral expansion, should the land use plan amendment be approved, will vertically expand on an area with no line. It was mentioned before that everywhere is lined. It's not. The original cell is not lined. In that area with a single line, there's another area with a single line system. This would not be approved today, but yet we're asked to buy off on a plan that's going to expand upon it and put increasing pressure, downward pressure on those areas, and most likely cause additional problems with groundwater contamination, which is existent there. The county and municipalities have relied on the capacity in their regions, including 2 other facilities outside of the county owned by Waste Management for a long time. We're not asking to rely on these forever. We're asking for a few more months until we have a plan in hand to make a better decision. Broward County landfill is underutilized right now, but we're reserving that capacity. So that capacity is still there for the threat of the storms. It's still there for us if the worst should happen in the next 6 months, before we can make a decision. If this capacity is so desperately needed, why was the largest waste management company in the world not able to predict this when it closed the adjacent waste energy plant? Right? We heard, well, there's not enough waste. And now we're asked to believe the future that they're telling us now. According to the report submitted by the FDP, as Mr. Rydell mentioned, waste management, 15% of waste management takes in their land at Monarch Hill is household waste, not the often stated 10%. Source separated, unprocessed methane producing yard waste is accepted and buried at the landfill. It represents 15% by their reports to the FDP. According to the latest annual report submitted, waste management also has 20% of the out of county. So right there, we start to see, we're looking at now, we're up to 35%. What changes can we make by a little more time? What other options are out there we should consider? Looking at a very long term, something for our grandkids to have to deal with. What we make, the decisions we make today is going to impact them. Let's wait another, if it's 6 months, it's 6 months. We have the time.
So the point of it is really for us is we're not coming in here as objectors to everything. I've said that to Dean privately. I've said it to Greg. I've said it to Bill. It's not an objection to everything. It's a working relationship and trying to figure out what this group is really doing. So what diminishes the capacity of this group is exactly that they're moving, like what we say today. If this group said as a group today, we don't want to support this, county deny it right now, let them come back in a year, or deny the land use plan amendment, give them additional 50 feet high, do 250 instead of over 300. If that was the agreement here, it doesn't matter to this point. It doesn't matter if that was the agreement, because it's going to go before the county commission because they maintain control of the asset. And I understand why. I get it globally, but right now, on behalf of Coconut Creek, those are some subsect of our objections. I'm happy to meet with any of you, and I urge you all, especially the people in this room, to come on November 12th, talk to your county commissioners, because your county commissioners listen to us as municipal leaders. They listen to us. Being hears it all, and Being candidly is looked at on the county commission as the leader of this, and I respect the amount of time and effort he's put in to know it, but I would just like to see a little more compromise, especially when they're asking for, I said this at the county commission, they're asking for a privilege, not a right. And there's a difference with all of us. Somebody has the right to do something, they can do it. When they have asking for a privilege, they gotta come to the table. Thank you.
Thank you. It is now 11:02. Yes, we have time for one question and follow up by the county attorney.
Yeah, absolutely, Member Chair, I apologize.
So it sounds like option one and option two, as Bill described, your objection is primarily option one. Your objection is primarily option one with regard to the land use change. With regard to the zoning change on the height, it doesn't sound like there's much of an objection. You just want to see if it would be obtained incrementally based on need after master plan.
You get to nail on the head. So right now we're taking the most drastic approach on option 1 and 2, but it doesn't need to be there today. So if the fear factor is existing, because that's a little bit of what we had here today in the video, like, you know, the world's gonna end. But you're absolutely right, incremental.
Option two, which I think is increased height, would get them 6 to 8 years.
And if it was done half of what they were asking and they came back to the county, when this board looks at its assets and opportunities, we're in such a different position. Such a different position. So you are absolutely correct. I stand firmly objecting to option 1, which is land use plan amendment, because we are giving up a major land use plan that only exists in 2 places in Broward County. And 2, I do believe it should be incremental. And that is something that I will go on record today saying if it was done incrementally with no one, I'm not standing up and yelling. I have a meeting with these gentlemen later this afternoon. I'm trying to get there to compromise. And I think, Vice Mayor, for you to agree, I haven't been a crazy advocate. I've been trying to work through this.
Thank you, Member Merrington.
I just want to, can you hear me?
Yeah.
No, I just want to thank both parties, Waste Management and City of Coconut Creek, for coming here today and making the presentation. Both compelling arguments, but I do kind of look at it as, and I go back to Commissioner Furr. One of the things that you said before was you didn't have control of the waste technology plan. You have control now in deciding to wait until we get a master plan together and then figure out if that, whatever is presented needs to be done or doesn't need. And I think that's, correct me if I'm wrong, that's a majority of your compelling argument is let's wait until our master plan is done, incorporate into. And I think, and I just share this as a city official, is that what the county decides, and again, I'm not putting pressure on you, you guys have your own decision process, but it doesn't build that collaborative process with the cities and the thing that we looked at kind of collaborating with each other. I believe this can wait. Again, I'm not arguing with Waste Management's philosophy or what they need to do in their best business practices, nor am I, again, arguing with what Coconut Creek is doing for not only the residents of Coconut Creek, Deerfield, and other surrounding areas. I certainly appreciate that. And I certainly appreciate, and I can tell you Coconut Creek is the greatest city to work with. Done some great things with that. So I just think that that process alone creates the optics of the county is listening, but they're not here. And that's my 2 cents.
Thanks very much. We have county attorney to finish up.
Sorry if I don't get the mic working right. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Chair Ross and members, there's nothing I feel compelled to say at this point. I think it's all been said. I think, however, that any suggestion that the county would approve something casually or based on hearsay is just not accurate. There's been a lot of analysis, a lot of discussions. Those will continue, and we appreciate the hard work of this. Thank you.
Drew, thank you very much. Moving on to new and old business, information material. Anyone have any new business? Yes.
I don't know if it's new business necessarily, but I know that cities can put their advertisements on the county website. Are we allowed to do that as a solid waste authority if it was cost effective? Because not only with Granicus can you put it on where somebody can just enter in, here's a meeting or here's information, but it also then allows people to get emails of when meetings are or if RFPs are out there or whatever it may be.
Yeah, I don't think, I think you should be able to do that.
Okay, because I would suggest we look into that, and again, it's a great way for people where it's done electronically, so it's not somebody taking it, you subscribe and you get the information.
Good idea. Any old business? Then do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion.
Thank you very much.
Wait.
Let's not give everybody.
You break your quick. Way too quick. Everybody in the audience. No, good. Hold on one second. This is Greg's last meeting and Bob's. And I would just like to say, you both have done a tremendous amount of work. It has been well guided, and you all know their participation, what they've added, what they've contributed to this is nothing short of fantastic. And we all know it's a long stretch, and you pass the baton as we go.
Yes.
And but you were running fast, so it's good point. With that, I think we have a few. We have cupcakes for everybody.
Garbage truck.
And one last time for both Bob and Greg, thank you so much.